Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Standley with Standley Handcrafted, and today we're going to be doing a basically Sunday Q&A. So I'm going to go through and answer some of the questions that people put on either the Facebook group or in the video comments from the last video. And as always, if you missed this one, please go ahead and ask any question you like in the video description down below or in the comment section down below, and I'll go through and I'll add those to the next Q&A video that I do in the future. All right, so jumping right out, I did mention that I moved in the last one. A few people had questions about that one. The last place that my wife and I were in was, we were just renting that place and we knew we'd be there for a little bit, and we ended up leaving a little bit sooner than we wanted to because the owners of that place, their daughter she lives locally and she's having a baby, so they wanted to move back so that they could be near the baby. So they're moving back and we just went ahead and got another place. And of course we're still looking to buy a place in the future, but this economy is absolutely not the right time to buy any kind of a house. So just renting for right now. So this studio will change again in the future. Hopefully it'll be a long time between this one and the next one though. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into this one. I'm gonna put the questions right up here. This first one is from Jalous, and this question comes from the Facebook group. And their question was, how do I pick which scent to use for free samples? Haven't launched yet, but plan on making samples to launch, but can't decide on which one or two of the 7 scents to use. Now for me with this one is very easy. I always go with my favorite scent, or maybe if you're gonna do 2, I do my favorite scent and then I do one that if you're already selling, you know which one sells the best. So definitely make samples of that one. If you haven't been selling yet, and they did mention that they're gonna be launching real soon, so I would pick the scent that you think, basically pick the one that you think is gonna resonate with people the most. So if you have 7 scents, definitely take your first one that you like the most and take the second one that maybe some people around you like the best. A couple people were asking about the wall that's behind me. This isn't really a candle question, but I get these from Amazon. I think they're about $50 or $60 for a pack of, I think 12, which fills the wall quite a bit. I'll include a link to these in the video description down below. So if anybody wants to pick these up, they've got a bunch of different patterns. They've got a bunch of different colors. They look really cool. I love them. All right, the next question comes from Deshanka in the Facebook group, and she asks, how do you ship candles in the summer months? Now this one is definitely a little tricky just because I live in an area that doesn't get extremely hot. It does get pretty hot for maybe a week or two throughout the entire year. It's pretty easy not to ship through that week, or maybe just hold off a few days. But if you do live in an area, something like Texas, Arizona, Florida, where it gets extremely hot and humid, you can definitely do a few more things to kind of help your candles, help at markets. I've done a video on this one, so I'll go ahead and link it up here, and I'll link it in the video description down below. But trying to insulate those as best you can, and you can get some insulation, and I'll go ahead and put these right here. You can get these from Uline, and they're little packs that hold in some of the temperature a little bit better than just keeping them in a box with a bunch of packing peanuts. So you can get some stuff like this. You can wrap them a little bit more. It'll help a little bit, but during some of the hotter months, there really isn't a ton you can do. You can get some ice packs, but I wouldn't do those unless you're selling a candle where you can kind of absorb some of that cost, because they do cost probably $1 to $2 per pack. Those can make a huge difference, but they don't last too long. So if you're shipping something from, say, where I live, Washington, all the way to Florida, it could be 3, 4, or even 5 days over a weekend, and those ice packs really aren't going to do a whole lot for you on the 4th or 5th day sitting in a really hot UPS truck. All right, the next question also comes from the Facebook group, and if you're not a member of the Facebook group, I'll include a link to that in the video description down below. This one comes from Selena, and she says, how do you decide which wick is truly best? I've done several 4-hour candle tests with, and she lists a few different wicks here, the WI-765, the Ecos, the CDs, and she's using 464 and 10% fragrance load, which is perfectly fine. Testing melt pool, wick size, any sort of smoke, mushrooming, size, flame. Basically, she's going through and testing everything, and it sounds like she's got a few that do work. And if it comes down to that, I would definitely say just go ahead and pick one of those. Pick one of those that you think burns the best. If you're burning the candle on 2 or 3 of those different wicks, if you find one that's leaving a little bit of wax on the side, and I mean trace amounts, I would go ahead and pick that one over the other one. I would go ahead and pick that one over the other 2. that may be burning or getting a full melt pool or not leaving anything on the sides. When you get a wick, and I'll try to find a picture and put it right here, but when you find a candle that burns perfectly, you're gonna have little trace amounts of wax being left on the sides. And the reason that's a good thing is because you know that wick is burning perfectly to the edges and you're just missing bits and pieces of wax on the sides of the vessel. So you know that wick is absolutely perfect. If it was to burn any less, you'd have more wax build up on the sides, which you don't want. And if it burned any bigger, you would probably not notice, and it probably is a good candle, but it might be going through that candle probably an hour, maybe 2 hours quicker over the life of the candle, just because it is burning past the edges just a little bit and burning the wax just a little bit quicker. And she mentions the flame height and soot or anything like that. So if you've got a good flame between like 2 or 3 different wicks, you're not really getting any soot. I would just go ahead and pick the 2. The other thing you can do is find maybe 2 of those wicks that burn really well and test them in a few different fragrances, because certain fragrances will alter the candle, basically the burn throughout the whole thing. So test it with like a cinnamon or a floral, something like a vanilla, which is a really thick oil, or maybe a floral, which is more of a thinner oil, and see how those burn between the 2. And once you start doing stuff like that, even if you have 2 wicks that burn really well, once you start testing those in different fragrances, you will see one that kind of stands out as the clear winner in those 2. But if you don't see one, or if you can't tell that much of a difference between the 2, I would just go ahead and pick one and run with it. All right, jumping over to the YouTube comments. This one comes from LaShawn, and she asked, what is the most efficient way to test and burn candles without going broke? This one is a really great question, especially now when the economy is being hit so hard right now. People are really looking to cut back, conserve as much money as possible. And for me, honestly, there's no better way than the wickless method. Now, I know a lot of people really don't care for the wickless method, but I will say a lot of people don't do the wickless method correct. And I do have a video on this one that shows how to do it and talks basically a lot more in depth about this one. And if you're unfamiliar with that one, it's basically what it is you're taking and pouring one candle, you're filling it all the way up to the top with your wax, with your oil. And then once it's done, you go ahead and grab like a skewer or a chopstick or something like that. I have a real long thermometer it's a metal thermometer. It goes right down through the bottom. It makes a perfect hole, the perfect size for a wick. And then I just go ahead and cut a wick and then just place it down in there. And that'll go through and it'll help you kind of figure out if you don't know which wick you have. And if you're doing something like, I noticed this a lot when I was using the M12 and going back and forth between the EC26, the difference in that wax in this same vessel is about a 4 wick size difference. Whereas the LCS 35 worked perfect in one, it was the LCS 55 or even the 60 that worked better in the other one. So instead of making 4 different candles to test every single one, you basically, like I said, fill the vessel with wax, put a wick in there, burn it for a little bit, see how it does. If it doesn't work, you just pull the wick, let it harden up, make a new hole, and then you put a new wick in there. And then of course, where a lot of people mess up with the wickless method is once you get to the point where you think you've got a wick that's going to work perfect through the whole thing, you would then turn around and make a new candle with that wick completely secure to the bottom of it and burn it from top to bottom in 3 to 4 hour increments and see how it does. And for me, that's probably the best answer I can give you as far as like saving and conserving everything that you have, especially when it comes to a vessel that's a little bit more high end if you're going for that route. $4, $5, $6 vessel. A lot of people really don't want to use 12 of those to find their perfect wicks and wax ratio. All right, so that's pretty much it with this one. Just a real quick one to get back in the studio, start recording again, answer a few of the questions that came up on that one. And like I said, if you have any questions for the next one, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below. And of course, if you like any of the vessels that I showed in this video, head over to DIYcandlesupply.com, check everything out. And if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.